there. Happy New Year. We made it to 2025, and this is episode 4 of At Your Own Risk. So, welcome, and I hope everybody had a safe and fun New Year's Eve. And if you're listening to this, obviously you made it to the New Year. So, hey, let's enjoy the ride, obviously, and definitely looking forward to a lot of cool stuff this year. And things are getting going already in 2025. I've had several people ask me a couple questions about some things. Obviously, like I said, everybody can always send me a message on Instagram, Facebook, at Copilot Mafia, on YouTube, or whichever way you think you can possibly send me either a question, something you want to learn about, or anything you want me to share as we get into these things. And I know I'm working on getting some navigators out there on the program, and hopefully I can figure that out soon. And I'm not boring you with just my old dumb stories of what I do. And again, one of the things I do want to emphasize is this is for entertainment purposes. I just want you guys have fun, laugh at me, laugh with me, of just all the opportunities that I've had in off-road racing. And I want to dive right into some of the questions that some people have asked me so far. So I kind of wrote them down, and I did get like one that I think that I can answer pretty quickly and easily. Is I've had people ask me, what am I doing in 2025? What am I racing, and what series do I prefer, and which ones do I love more? But basically, it comes down to, I may love every series out there, but it comes down to who's going to need me for what race, and if I can get a full ride with someone in a truck or a UTV or anything else. That's my goal, is to obviously be ready to help a team out for a full season where I can commit, myself to that team for the full race season, and know that that's what I'm going to be doing. But as of right now, I've been very fortunate. I did originally have a plan right now to race the Legacy Parker race with the McNeils racing out of Phoenix, and that'll be in February, actually 22nd. And then I just recently, the last day of the year, January 31st, it was pretty cool. I got a text message from David Ziegler, and to navigate for him at the Unlimited Series, the Parker 400. And that one's coming up in about 15, 16 days from probably when this airs. So that one will be in Parker as well. That's a Parker race done by the Martelli brothers, the Unlimited Series, which is looking to be a pretty good series out there. They have 4 races this year, so that'll be interesting to see how those all pan out. I know there's a really cool one that they made an announcement on, which was the Reno 600. So that I mean, for guys that are teams that are up on the north side, I'm sure they're excited for that. But again, my right now, as of right now, I have 2 rides, and I have first will be the January race with David Ziegler, and in his Brenthel Spec Trophy truck. And then February, I should be getting in with the McNeils in their Spec Trophy truck as well, and that one will be for the Legacy race. So January and February right now, I'll be racing in Parker, God willing, and so I'm looking forward to that. One of the cool things is I will continue to be using Baja Brian's notes for that. And I keep sharing how good a system it is. I'm obviously a little bit partial to it, with the success that we had, or I had using it for the Baja 1000. So again, I'm a little partial to it only because I think it works. If you put in the work, learn how to read the system, and learn how to say it right, I think there's a big advantage to any team that is willing to look at Baja Brian's stuff. And if you are looking to it, I suggest you reach out to him on Instagram at Baja Brian and ask him some questions about it, and then get your own opinion about it. But as far as I'm concerned, it's a great system. One of the cool things I do think that, from thinking about the Spec Trophy truck, that when I started in trophy light trucks, and all those were all same. Everybody had, pretty much the same vehicle out there. So one of the things that I kind of pride myself on doing was back then, the navigator and the driver were going to make all the difference. It came down to how much work you were willing to put in, not just on the driver's side, but I think on the navigator side. So I can still remember back then in those times when Brian Annell and his team would make me practice changing tires, just to see how fast I could do it and quicker than every other team. If we were all the same, then it came down to how fast you were going to change a tire. And I think I got that down to about 3.5 minutes from the time I got out to getting the tire off, putting the tire back on the rack, and getting back in the car. So it was always a competition that came down to everybody has the same vehicle at this point. The driver and the navigator are going to make all the difference. So that is one of the things that I think I'm pretty happy that I started in that series, and then it made me develop into who I am today. But again, like I started earlier, this is for entertainment purposes. Don't take me serious. I'm in no way a professional at this. I just really enjoy sharing my stories. So that's what I'll be doing. January, February, I'll be in Parker, and for 2 different series. And I appreciate those that have reached out to me and allowed me to get in that seat, and the opportunity to do that, and the trust that comes with that. So again, I appreciate that. Another question that I got asked is why I don't drive, and that one I was thinking about it the other morning. I do a lot of my thinking when I'm running, because that's how I like to stay in shape for races. I need to do something. I can't just be sitting around in a couch. Um, so when I was thinking about that, why don't I drive? And one of the things that came to my mind right away was probably the biggest influence in why I don't drive probably comes from my father. And I would have to say that he wasn't, as much as he did obviously tell me and talk to me, and he showed me a lot of being an individual person that takes pride in whatever they're doing individually. Like, that's one thing you're doing. If that's what you do it to the best of your ability, and let that show for itself. You don't have to, be telling people how great you are. Let your actions and your results do the talking for you. And I think one of the things that my father taught me, in that, one of the things I can remember in him, just before he passed in 2007, I got to go to a travesía, what they call, from El Golfo to Rocky Point, and he was always the guy that stayed in the back to make sure that everybody made it to the finish line, and made it to the finish, to their destination. And he was a mechanic by trade, and he really prided himself in just knowing that everybody was going to make it, and whatever he had to do to help them fix whatever needed to be fixed, he was there to do that. So again, I'm pretty lucky that I got to see him, just not only in his by what he said, but his actions, of what it is that he showed me, that when you're good at something, do it to the best of your ability, and you won't have to think about it, I guess. So one of the things that I'm very, very blessed, and I feel fortunate, is that somehow I was giving a good navigation skills, good head on my shoulders to do that. And one of the interesting things that I think I've learned in the past 14 years of doing it over and over and over, that I think the interesting thing that I realized was when I started to watch the I don't know if anybody's watched the Netflix series on the F1 racers. Um, and one of the things that I noticed, that the guys that were talking into the F1 drivers' heads, their voice was always very calm. It was always very, they didn't put a lot of emphasis into, oh my gosh, you have to pit, pit, pit. It's very simple. It's, they just say pit. Or so one of the things that I actually started to do from watching that was I started to make sure that my voice was calmer, that I was saying something and that was it. But some, there's some drivers that like a lot of talk and there's some that don't. So I just basically kind of adapted a little bit more of a calmer voice. And I'm not going to say that I've never. Obviously, there are times when I've, kind of gone like whoa, whoa, whoa. So I'm not like perfect, but I do try to keep that tone to a minimum, kind of like a very simple voice. And I think again, the question was why don't I drive? And I think my biggest thing for why I don't drive is that I feel that my best work is done in a navigator seat, in doing that, keeping an individual calm, keeping an individual going where we need to go, sharing information of whether somebody's coming, what the gauges are saying, and things like that. That kind of take out that thinking out of someone's head. I remember too. I asked another driver one time because there were some times when I would find that some drivers wouldn't remember where we were making a turn or something, and I remember asking another driver one time. I said, "Why is that you guys forget that there's this hard left and then there's a bunch of ruts coming up or something?" And I asked another driver, not someone I had actually never raced with before, and I asked them. I said, "What is going on? Why can I remember, but the driver can't?" And what he told me was that he believes, and again, this is just our speculation of what we think. He believes that sometimes drivers literally just close their mind off, put on a helmet, and all they're doing is driving, and that's all they're worried about. And so, I think in those situations, you as a navigator, the co-pilot, have to remember that you are basically 80% of the brain in that car at that point, because they're just going. And I know that there's some drivers out there that are great drivers. I mean, they probably don't even need a navigator in there. But I I believe that if you do a job and you do it well, you're probably an asset in that seat that is probably helping that individual do even better. If they're that good, a good navigator is going to make you even that better. But again, that's my opinion. And I think that's one of the cool things for me is that the reason I don't drive, and I can pretty safely say that I will never drive, just because I don't feel the need, I don't feel any kind of want for that, and I just think that my best work again is done when I'm navigating, when I'm co-piloting. And the good thing about knowing that's all you do, that's all you ever worry about. You look at maps, you look at ways you can share information. So I think the more you invest into what you do as a co-pilot, that's just you're an asset to that team. And if you take care of yourself, work on yourself mentally, physically, you got to put yourself as good as you can to get in a vehicle with somebody, and do your best. So I think that's why I don't drive, because I think that my best work is done in the navigator seat as a co-pilot, someone that's going to change the tire, fix something, and that's pretty much all you have to worry about. Hopefully, when you get in with a driver, they understand that you've put in the work. You come seasoned and you're prepared. So that's why I don't drive. I don't plan on driving. I don't have a need or feel to ever drive. I think again, my best work is done in a co-pilot seat. So that's my answer to that. The other interesting one that I think I could probably get into a very long um, uh, subject about is somebody asked me about driver management. And driver management is interesting because I guess I never thought of like, well, you have to manage the driver when you get in with somebody. But I will say that in my 14 years, I've gotten in with people that I've never met, never knew. I've gotten in with people in vehicles that called me the day before a race and said, "Hey, I hear you know how to navigate." And I said, "All right, where am I going? What time am I showing up? And what system do you have? Do you have a Lawrence? Do you have a Garmin? Do you have a lead nav?" So, and that was it. Luckily, some of the races that I did get called on, I had either just raced a week before, or just I had just memorized some of the courses, so it was kind of easy to get into a vehicle and say, "Yep, I'm there." But when it comes to driver management, that's an interesting one, and I do have a story that I want to share about driver management, which is kind of funny at now that I think about it. And I know that this driver, hopefully he listens to it and he gets a chuckle of it. But so I'm going to go back way back into onto October 5th of 2019, and that was I was racing in a trophy light truck for a team owned by it was a trophy light truck owned by Phil Fogg, and there was going to be three drivers: Phil Fogg, Rick Jackson, and Scott Ski. And we were going to race it was the Code Mex Logistics 500 back in October of 2019. And that was started in Mexicali to San Felipe, and then San Felipe back to Mexicali. So it was going to be three different drivers, and I was going to navigate for all of them. I'm like, I'm good. So the first driver that they were going to put in there was Scott Ski. And, no, I met the guys for dinner the night before on Friday night. We had dinner and went over some of the things that the way I said, especially in the trophy light, since it's only one, two, three. Like I said before in my episode one, everything was L1, L2, L3, or R1, R2, R3, just based on the gears. So I'm talking to Scott Ski and letting them know, look, this is how we're doing it, and this is what you need to learn, and this is all you need to listen to, and that's it. So, but when we're sitting there for dinner, he tells me he's never raced before. So I'm like, okay, well, not everybody ever gets to race out in off road. I'm thinking, and I remembered too, because I had raced for Phil before, and he did regular, road racing as well as I think Rick Jackson did some road racing as well. So they were both familiar with racing, scenario in the driver's seat behind the steering wheel in race conditions. So I felt confident that okay, they brought a third guy, it shouldn't be a big issue. So Scott tells me again, he says, I haven't raced before, and I said, just listen to me, what I tell you, how I tell you, and we'll be fine. So we won't have any issues. So, um, then that was it. Well, I mean, I didn't think anything else of it. I figured he was telling me that he had never raced before in off road, which again, it's not like everybody gets that opportunity to race in an off road race. So we got up the next morning, Saturday, October 5th of 2019. The race starts in Mexicali, and for some reason, I still remember that too. We got up to the line like right as we were the next vehicle to go next. So we pull up to the start line, and we're buckling in, getting everything ready to go, and we literally pull right up, and we get we're the next truck off, like we're running behind basically. So we took off, and Scott, who had never raced before, just starts listening to me, and I start telling him what we need to do, where we need to go, how we need to get around people, when to slow down, when to wait, when to everything that I knew how to do myself. So we take off, and we start just cutting, taking people, positions, and we keep moving up and up. And so we're doing great, we're doing awesome. He's driving like freaking like he's raced before. Like I'm thinking like, what do you mean this guy's never raced before? He's doing great. So end up going, and somehow the fuel calculation was done wrong, or we didn't get enough fuel somewhere. So end up we end up running out of fuel in the middle of the course. And I can still remember Scott wanting to get out of the car and say, "Well, we got to check and see what's wrong." And I tell him, I said, "Well, hold on, don't get out of the car. I'm going to tell you when to get out of the car when I either don't see anything, hear anything. We're going to sit here. This is the safest place to be, is in a cage. And then once I tell you we're in the clear, well, I'll undo your belt and take the net off so we're ready, and we'll run far away from the truck. That way, we're in no danger as far as close to the track." So we do that. We unbuckle, and we're sitting there while we're waiting for the team to come bring us gas. So we start talking. I start talking to Scott and asking, you kept telling me the night before that you've never raced before, which I'm assuming that you've never off road raced ever in your life, and which is not common, for somebody to do. And he says, "No, when I was telling you yesterday that I've never raced, I meant I've never raced in anything. Like I've never gotten in the driver's seat to go to a racing event." And I'm like kind of taken back. I'm like, what are you talking about?" I'm like, "The other two guys, they do road racing." I'm like, "You don't do that?" And he says, "No, I don't do that. I've never raced before. That's why then yesterday when we were having dinner and you're telling me, 'Don't worry about anything, we got it.'" He's thinking like, "Man, this guy's got a huge set of balls to just be getting in with somebody that's never raced before, and like it's no big issue." And to me, it was not a big issue the night before, because I assumed that he had raced in something previous to getting in this truck. Luckily, and it was a trophy light. It's a lot slower, but the crazy thing, I think, was that I didn't even know. I assumed that he had raced before, like he had some racing experience. And I think the best thing that could have happened was me thinking that he had raced before and just get in a vehicle and let's go racing and not worry about it. So it was it was interesting once we had to pull over and talk and find out that he had never raced before. But man, I'll tell you what, he was doing awesome. He was following every instruction that I gave him, and being I had ran in those sections before, I kind of knew where to guide him. And I still remember, I think, when we got to when they finally got to us in fuel and fueled us up and got us back and running again. I could remember, I think, I want to say that Scott was about 45 minutes to an hour ahead of what they were thinking we were going to be in, because, being a new driver and never raced before, they figured we were going to be a little bit, averaging a little bit slower speed. And on the contrary, we were like hauling ass. He was killing, he's kicking butt. And so, when you talk about driver management, I guess sometimes when you don't know, who's getting in with you, and you assume that they've raced before, maybe that's a good thing. But that was an interesting one as far as when it came to driver management, because I think in that situation, I assumed that he knew what he was doing. But again, I think it helped that I was confident in getting in with anybody at that point, and as long as they kind of listened to what I had to say and do, it was fun. But like I said, I've gotten calls um, the night before a race in some situations, and I've been very fortunate in the 14 years that I've raced. It's always been super great, fun people to go race with. And I think one of the cool things that I think I'm very fortunate and blessed with is that the teams that do call me, I mean, I've had people that obviously don't know me at all, and I've had people that recommended me that don't know me, and I appreciate their confidence in what I do, and it's been fun. I mean, it's pretty cool that I get to, get those opportunities, and that people are willing to say, "Hey, I know a guy that can do it for you." So, like I said, it's so much fun. So when it comes to, basically, as somebody asked me, what about driver management? I think driver management is so different depending on the driver, and I think depending on what their trust level is going to be, and what you have to say and do in that vehicle too. I mean, that's massive. I know that in my experiences, I mean, I've had where guys will listen to every word I say and follow it to a T. And I've been in situations with other drivers are like, I think I know better, and you don't know what you're saying, and will do whatever they're going to. I know one situation that sticks out in my brain was in Parker, long time ago, and I was with a driver, and I remember we made there's a hard left coming up, and Parker, some of the sand dunes area, there's maybe 4 or 5 lanes of where you can go, and we're coming to the hard left, and if you stay on the inside left, it's pretty beat up, rough, but if you stay on the outside to the outside right, it's a lot faster and it's a lot smoother. You can go faster. And in that situation, I remember I said, when we make this hard left, if you go to the right, the lane, line on the right side is going to be faster and smoother. Um, but my advice was not taken, and so they stayed on the left. And as we're going, all I could see was trucks on the right side just passing us that took the right line. So again, it's like I think driver management, when it comes to, there's guys that are going to listen and there's guys that are not. So but I think I've been very fortunate that the most of the teams and drivers that I've been with, respect that I guess I have some experience, and it's been fun. So, hopefully, I that was, hopefully I answered that question in a good way as far as driver management. I think the other thing too about driver management is that you're not only just the guy telling them where to go, you're also the cheerleader, and you're also the you're what I'm not looking I'm the cheerleader, but also the motivator. Sometimes when things go wrong or a driver does something wrong, you got to pick their spirits back up and motivate them to keep going and doing. I've been in situations, obviously, where you have an issue and you pull over and you have to fix it, and you get back in the car, and the driver's like, "Oh man, this sucks, it's the worst," and you got to do the best job that you can in bringing them back up and saying, "Look, we're still in it. There's still 400, 300 miles to go. Anything can happen." So, sometimes you're just, like I said, the cheerleader, the motivator, always trying to pick them up, and letting them know that there's still a race to be done. And the only worst part about when you do break is you end up behind slower traffic. So your management level of driving, even or managing a driver, goes even higher, because you're trying to reel them in to a section that there's a better place to pass if it's too rocky. Just the sections that as a co-pilot navigator. So it's all relative to driver, as far as when it comes to driver management. Obviously, it's going to depend on the driver, but so that's what I got to say about that for now. And hopefully it's been entertaining to hear a story uh, about Scott, and the fun time we had, and me getting in with a vehicle with someone who had never raced before ever. So that was fun. And I just again, if you do have anything that you want me to talk about, send me a message to my Instagram, Daniel Plaza 1, or Copilot Mafia, and ask me a question there. Or if there's a subject that you'd like me to talk about, send me a message there as well, and I will. I'm looking at them, and I appreciate everybody that's listening, and hopefully this is entertaining and not boring. But I know I'll have more. I want to have, like I said, I do want to have some more navigators on a navigator to start with that I can interview, and I have some lined up. I'm just I'll make sure and get them on here so we can hear their side of the story, not just mine. And again, I appreciate everybody, and have a great week. Talk to you guys. Bye.